Fall in New England. What a magnificent time of the year. Crisp air, changing leaves, apple cider donuts, and sitting next to a warm fire come to mind. We last left you after driving across the country in our expedition truck, making it home to my parents' house in Massachusetts just in time for a childhood friend's wedding. You're probably watching this video because either you're interested in the overland lifestyle or you're a friend or family member. For those interested in overland content, this might not be it, but we wanted to share this video to show another side of the traveling lifestyle, the much needed visit home. Time to unwind, sleep in, and recharge for the next adventure. To eat your favorite foods and to watch the snow fall. Over the 2.5 months that we spent in New England, we only put a few hundred miles on the truck. While the truck was still where we slept and worked, this period of our journey was about spending quality time with friends and family and enjoying a few of the things we love most about the Northeast. She's Heather and I'm Dana, and together we make up HD.Adventuring. We moved full-time into this fire truck turned expedition vehicle a few months ago, and we're sharing our travels here. We started in Massachusetts at my parents' house. I grew up in eastern Massachusetts, a few towns west of Boston, but my parents recently moved into the Berkshires. We had never been to their new house, nor spent much time in western Mass. And we had some great tour guides who were eager to share their new home. My parents love to get outside, and hiking is an activity that we enjoy together. Over the month or so that we spent with them, we got out on quite a few hikes. The fall foliage was just past peak, but we got out to see the colors on multiple occasions. We hiked to the top of the local ski hill one day, and down to the lake where my mom rose on another. While these mountains may not be the jagged 14ers that we are used to, there's a certain familiarity with the mossy, wet, and rooty trails that bring back memories of childhood. Speaking of rooty and wet, we also got out on the bikes a few times while at my parents'. Coming back to this type of terrain makes me glad that this is where I learned to ride. The weather was getting colder, and our month in Massachusetts came to an end. We enjoyed getting to know this quaint region and will look forward to coming back again. After Massachusetts, we packed up the truck and drove north to Burlington, Vermont. Burlington will always have a special place in our hearts because that is where Heather and I met. So Heather and I both went to University of Vermont, or UVM, and so every time we come back to Burlington, it's always a special occasion for us. It's never particularly fun driving a giant vehicle into this really old city, but we know some of the shortcuts to do it best, and thankfully we have some friends we can stay with. So a little bit of a trip down memory lane for us right now. With a bit of nail biting and a multi-point turn, we maneuvered the truck behind our friends Jake and Alyssa's house without doing any damage to the house or the truck, although it was close. You might remember my sister Claire and her now fiance, Rod, from our last video. The two of them flew out to Burlington and my parents drove up so that the 6 of us and 2 dogs could enjoy a long weekend together. We all piled into my parents' Subaru and did a little bit of sightseeing. And no trip to Vermont would be complete without visiting the makers of our two favorite dairy products, Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream and Cabot Creamery. And yes, we bought the largest block of cheese that would fit in the truck's fridge. Our trip to Vermont was short but sweet. We had been in New England over a month but still had not seen Heather's family. So we gently maneuvered the truck out of its spot and headed to the Mount Washington Valley of New Hampshire, where Heather grew up. Heather's parents' house is nestled next to a beautiful lake. This also happens to be the spot that Heather and I got married a few years ago. We love spending time here because you can hike, bike, ski, or fish, but you can also cozy up with a good book next to the fire or soak in the hot tub. The lake's water level had been lowered this year to allow some repairs in the marina, which made for extra special photos and the chance to explore places that previously had been covered with water, either by foot or by kayak. I jumped at the opportunity to get out on the water and explore. I even got to see the local resident bald eagle. But remember, this was in the late fall and the water was cold. One day the wind kicked up while I was out in the middle of the lake, and I was happy to have worn waterproof layers and the life jacket. Speaking of cold water, we drove down to Cape Cod for a long weekend to celebrate Thanksgiving with Heather's extended family. While we certainly weren't going to get in the water, we still made sure to spend some time by the ocean. As we played fetch with the dogs on one of our walks, we were greeted by a dozen or so sea lions playing close to shore. They were super interested in Heather's family's dog, Reggie. We also explored a few other areas around the Cape. We went and saw the first lighthouse built on Cape Cod. While this was the first lighthouse erected, it actually needed to be moved in the 90s because the beach had eroded to the point where it might fall into the water. After that, we checked out this incredible salt marsh where Heather's grandma used to live. We just love the colors and textures in this spot. On the shore, we saw locals harvesting oysters and clams. It was at this precise moment that we decided we needed some seafood. While you need to be a resident to harvest, the local fish market was happy to sell us a dozen oysters harvested that morning. One of our favorite things about the Cape is how photogenic it is. No matter the season, there is always something beautiful begging to be photographed. We returned to New Hampshire for a week or so before we were bound to head south. We spent as much time with friends and family in the area as we could, and even chopped down this massive Christmas tree for Heather's parents' house. Fall was slowly transitioning into winter in New Hampshire. The days were growing shorter and the nights were getting colder, and soon we got the first major snowstorm of the season. We adore the snow. This morning was majestically peaceful and quiet. But We were set to leave the next day, so we had to clean up the truck and drive it on this narrow path next to Heather's parents' house. The snow didn't help that.
Woohoo! The beast is alive.
We had parked down near the water, which was a great place to camp. But the snow had knocked down trees on the alternate route, so we had to navigate this slope without hitting the house or going over the edge.
Oh yeah, no problem.
That was scary. We closed up the truck, said our goodbyes, and pointed the truck south to find warmer weather and see some states we hadn't yet explored. If you want to see that video, which I promise will be heavier on the overlanding side of our lifestyle, you'll need to subscribe to our channel. While the snow was a fitting signal for the start of our southern migration, we were full of warmth and excitement that only time with family and friends could provide. From family walks to hours of soaking in the hot tub to eating our weight in seafood, we were glad that we had made the time to come out east. It was a great reminder about how important prioritizing this time is and how energizing visiting home can be.